Hello, Olympia. Today we're talking about the December 10th, 2024 Olympia City Council meeting, and it was a long one, but it was also the second to the last and the last really meaty agenda for the council for 2024.
This is Council in 10.
For the record, I'm Kelly Purse-Brassett.
And I'm Susan Grisham.
If this is your first time joining us for Council in 10, it's our attempt to recap the council meeting that happened the night before, sort of like a trailer, for everything that happened last night for the City Council, and we're trying to do it in under 10 minutes.
So if you were too busy stuffing your face with Christmas cookies to watch an entire meeting, Council in 10 is the show for you.
During our last episode, we told you that we were considering making some changes because I do not like punishment. So we launched a poll on social media to see what you thought about that.
Yes, so basically, do we keep the timer and punishments or get rid of them?
And guess what? The nation is divided. It came in like 50-50. So, we're going to take a little more time to sort of figure out what we're going to do.
And until that time, we're turning off the timer.
Okay.
So let's see if we can stay on track without the threat of punishment.
Okay. And so no matter what we're going to do, we're still going to try to keep it under 10 minutes, and we're still going to hit the button. Okay, so here we go. So we start with roll call. Everyone was present. We then went to announcements. And under announcements, the mayor let the community know, reminded them that a vacancy is coming on council with the recent election of Councilmember Parsley to the legislature. We are accepting applications from the community for consideration for appointment. That deadline is this Friday, December 13th. So then they moved to approval of agenda, and there was no special recognition. And then we went immediately to public comment. There were sort of two themes of public comment. One was gratitude, and we heard thanks from the Dragon Boat Club for receiving LTAC money, the Habitat for Humanity for council support of the housing emergency, and we heard from small businesses. The EDC, Michael Cade from the EDC was here to let them know about all the thanks for the support of small businesses. And then we heard from about 11 speakers around a support for a transgender sanctuary city action.
All right, well, then we moved on to the consent calendar, and they did pull one item for discussion and separate action, and that was the approval of the Olympia State Legislative Agenda for 2025. And the reason why it was pulled is because they wanted to add an item, which is a support for a capital ask of $2 million for Joint Animal Services to replace the animal shelter that is shared among all of the local jurisdictions. And this ask is also being added to the joint legislative agenda that we have, and then also the individual legislative agendas for Tumwater, Lacey, the county, and Olympia. Yeah. So they approved that as amended, and then they went on to approve the consent calendar.
We're supporting our neighbors in Lacey.
Yes. And then we moved on to a public hearing on the intention to change the Olympia Parking and Business Improvement Area assessment rate. That's always a mouthful. So at the last council business meeting, they talked about that intention. And so this is to basically pause the PBIA dues for the year of 2025 to re-examine the program, which has been going for about 20 years, and to see how it's working, how it can be improved, and what we could do in the future. So they did pass the resolution. One person actually spoke during the public hearing, remotely and in support. And so the council did pass that resolution to pause the program. However, I do want to mention that we will still have flower baskets, which is normally the purview of the PBIA.
And we don't know who's going to water. It might be us as punishment.
It might be us, but So that passed unanimously. And then they moved on to a second public hearing, which was a consideration of an ordinance declaring a continuing state of a public health emergency related to homelessness. And this is an ordinance that we have been passing once a year or so since 2018.
Yeah.
And what it does is really helps support us get resources to help with the issues of homelessness in our community. So there was a public hearing. No one spoke, but the ordinance was passed.
Yeah, and council had a really good conversation around the work of balancing compassion and accountability and limited resources.
Yes.
So it was a good conversation. Dip into that if you want to know more. So then we went into other business, and this involved me more than I had imagined. Stephanie Johnson, our public arts manager, her title is more specific than that. Was I lent her my voice for the approval of the welcome figure concept design. Squaxin Island Tribe artist and carver Andrea Wilbur-Seago has a design for a welcome figure to go downtown over the Deschutes estuary when that shows up. So the Arts Commission made a recommendation on the design concept, and Andrea was here to show the design to council. It was in the newspaper because there was things about it being anatomically correct, which is just historically appropriate and generally appropriate. People, get over yourselves. So we had that conversation, and council approved it unanimously and with a lot of fanfare and excitement. And then we went to?
Yes, so we moved on to approval of the draft 2025 City of Olympia federal legislative agenda, which I presented along with Rick Desimone, who is our federal lobbyist. He gave kind of an overview of our approach to how we manage this work, and then also a little bit of an overview of what to look forward to next year in DC with all the changes happening. So that was a pretty interesting conversation.
Yeah.
And then I presented the draft 2025 federal agenda, and very quickly, first was support of congressional funding for work around the Armory Creative Campus and a relocation of the Plum Street Tiny Village. And then something we hear from the community is the need for childcare opportunities, so an expansion around that. Support for the Deschutes Estuary Project, support for housing and homelessness resources, economic development and infrastructure, promoting health and safety, and protecting the rights of our community members. So there was some discussion about expanding some of the language around protections, especially based on the earlier conversation from our trans community members who came to talk with us.
So really important.
We will be updating that language a little bit, but otherwise the agenda was approved.
Going forward.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So then we move to yet another declaration of a public health emergency, this one related to insufficient supply of affordable housing. And Jacinda Steltetz, our affordable housing program manager, presented this to council because, as you know, there's a housing crisis that we're dealing with, and we need more tools and flexibility to develop affordable housing in our community. This ordinance will allow us some that flexibility, and what it'll allow us to do is to lower development costs for developers who want to build affordable housing. It'll prioritize affordable housing and middle housing projects in our permitting process, and it will give our city manager, Jay Burney, authority to waive, postpone, or exempt city requirements that might become barriers for building affordable housing. And so all of these declarations of public health emergency, either affordable housing or homelessness, give the city manager a lot of flexibility to make things move a little faster. And it also requires some trust from council and the community that I think he's done a really good job of earning and living up to.
Absolutely.
Did you hear that, boss?
Yeah. Too funny. Okay. So then we moved on to reports, and one of the main items was a discussion of a gap in funding for the Olympia Funk Fest, and they decided to award them some council goal money so they can close a funding gap and allow the event to continue, which happens at the end of January pretty quickly.
Pretty quickly. It's
So
coming
they
up.
approved that unanimously. And then the city manager had no reports, and council moved on to their executive session, which was around the city manager's performance evaluation and doing some work around that.
Right, and so we adjourned at 10:05, so council had a very long night because they
We're going to meet up to 90 more minutes.
I'm going to meet for up to 90 more minutes. So there we go. And we are, boom, here we go. Okay. So, well, thanks for joining us. If you're watching this live, stay tuned because the council meeting we just talked about is following on. Or if you want to watch it on demand, you can watch it on demand and all of our offerings on Oli TV3 anytime on olitv3.com, or you can download our Oli TV app, which is, I keep telling you every time, really good.
And if you want to watch a council meeting live and in person, we're here most Tuesdays at 6 p.m. But however, next week will be the last one of the year.
Yep.
So if you want to make it down, that's the time to do it.
And we will save a seat for you. And with that, we're
adjourned. Woo!
Okay.